Good afternoon. It's Thursday, September 17. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. For those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com, special welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. We begin with sad news that former cabinet minister in the Michael Manley administration of the 1970s, Dr. D.K. Duncan, has died. Dr. Duncan died this morning in hospital. This was confirmed by General Secretary for the People's National Party, Julian Robinson. D.K. Duncan tested positive for COVID-19 and was hospitalized. Dr. Duncan, a dentist by profession, began his political career in 1966. At that time, he was the PNP campaign manager in the Southwestern St. Anne local government elections. He later served as PNP campaign manager for various candidates in general elections of 1967 and 1972. Dr. Duncan was elected Member of Parliament for East Central St. Andrew in the 1976 general election and later became Member of Parliament for East Hanover in 2007 until he lost the seat in 2016. Mr. Duncan was appointed Minister of National Mobilization and Human Resource in 1977. He became General Secretary of the People's National Party, PNP, in 1974. And Jamaica yesterday recorded 5 additional COVID-19 related deaths, pushing the country's COVID-19 death count to 51. The Health Ministry says 2 of the deaths were formally under investigation. The deaths include an 81-year-old woman from Kingston and St. Andrew who had congestive cardiac failure, diabetes, and hypertension, a 71-year-old woman from St. Catherine who had diabetes and hypertension, and a 69-year-old man from Kingston and St. Andrew. The other 2 cases are a 76-year-old woman from St. Catherine who had a history of hypertension and diabetes, and a 46-year-old woman from Westmoreland who had a terminal illness. 4 other deaths are now being investigated. Meanwhile, 210 COVID-19 cases were recorded in Jamaica yesterday. This has pushed the country's case count to 4,374. Cases were recorded in all 14 parishes, but most of the cases are in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, St. Thomas, Portland, and Manchester. The Health Ministry says 111 persons are in hospital, with 22 of them being moderately ill. Another 8 persons are considered critically ill. Internet connectivity will be one of the main challenges the e-COVID task force, which was set up to advise on the reopening of schools, will have to deal with. That's based on indications from the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, which is also a part of the task force. Prince Moore has details.
JTA President Jasford Gabriel says it's becoming increasingly clear that a blended approach to classes will have to be taken in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Such an approach would see students doing most of their lessons online and some in the physical classroom. Mr. Gabriel says this means broadband connectivity will be extremely important.
If it is going to be predominantly online as it is shaping up to be, then the real issue is the one that we've been asking about in terms of our readiness with broadband connectivity across the country. We know we'll have to go into the communities where students and teachers are in order to get the lessons out, and so we still are quite determined in finding out the status of the broadband connectivity as opposed to where we were March 12 when we closed.
Mr. Gabriel says he believes teachers are more equipped now to deliver lessons virtually than they were at the start of the pandemic.
Almost all our teachers would have gotten additional training and would be far more proficient in managing the online platforms, and so it's what we do. We are quite keen in getting on with the business of education, but we have to balance that in terms of the pandemic and the availability of the resources. So many of them as well are concerned that they will not be having sufficient data to be able to carry the lessons online, and so all of these things will be discussed at the COVID task force.
The task force, chaired by Education Minister Favour Williams, was established yesterday to decide the way forward regarding the reopening of schools amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Schools are set to reopen on October 5. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And the e-COVID task force is to have its first meeting tomorrow. Education Minister Favour Williams says regular updates will be provided on decisions made by the task force regarding the readiness of schools. She spoke about her expectations of tomorrow's meeting.
Is again to lay out to them our thinking, to get from them their collective wisdom on the process as we go along. We know that we have to communicate with the broader society, and we are committed to doing that. So I don't want to preempt anything right here this morning. I want to give the task force the chance to come together for the first time tomorrow. If we have to meet every day to hammer out things up until schools opening, we will. And of course, we are going to continue after that to ensure the continued management of our schools in a safe way in this COVID environment.
Now, the e-COVID task force comprises of representatives from the JTA, the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, the Joint Committee for Tertiary Education, UWI Guild of Students, the National Council on Education, and other groups. Concern from some of the country's engineers about the disregard being shown for the environment by some residents. But amidst those concerns, an assessment of the worsening flooding situation in Kingston and St. Andrew. The details in this report.
These days, it seems like each time it rains, parts of Kingston and St. Andrew are flooded. This is one of the most recent flood videos of Marcus Garvey Drive in St. Andrew, where the brand new flyover bridge is. Flood victims in the area have blamed the road works for their problems, in particular, the inadequacy of the drains that came with the project. There was a subsequent admission for the authorities that drainage in the area was insufficient and that more drains will be built in the area as part of a multi-billion-dollar spend on a master drainage plan. But the question has been asked, isn't it unwise to have done the roads without sufficient drain improvement? An answer was given by engineers during their discussions about infrastructure in the country.
If I had to choose, I would choose road first, then drainage, primarily because road earn us money each day as a society by just making it quicker and easier to get around. But if we can get them right at the same time, then we should get them right.
One of the engineers, Dr. Christopher Burgess, pointed to two areas of the corporate area that must be given urgent infrastructure development to help limit flooding in the future.
A quick check of 6 or 7 of the major gullies which drain central to western Kingston is that what we need now is almost twice the size. So we're going to have to go in and rebuild some of those older, smaller drains.
Housing developers were also pinpointed as part of the problem in the city. The engineers believe many of the new houses, apartments, plazas and offices are built without regard to environmental sustainability.
You'll notice that a lot of developments, some of the like these nice, beautiful paved bricks, nobody wants to keep any little green area. So a lot more persons are channeling their drainage water back onto the road. The
engineers also expressed concern about the environmental damage happening in the Kingston Harbour, where raw sewage is being deposited. The sewage is washed from the gullies across Kingston and St. Andrew. The engineers were participating in a group discussion that marked part of Engineers Week in Jamaica. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More local stories when we return. Welcome back, continuing the news. 3 children are among 7 persons left homeless after a fire destroyed their home in Hatfield, Manchester, Tuesday afternoon. As you'll hear in this report, except for their lives, the victims were unable to save anything.
This is what's left of the 8-apartment building that was previously occupied by 7 persons, including 3 children in Hatfield, Manchester. It is believed that the structure caught fire a few minutes after 1 Tuesday afternoon. At the time of the fire, Zana Mullings and her 3 children, ages 2, 4, and 9, were inside the building. Ms. Mullings told our news team that it was her 9-year-old son who first made an alarm.
Me and my 3 kids was inside, lying on the bed, and my son, 9-year-old, he got up and said he smells smoke. So when he got up, I said, look in the kitchen if it's the extension or what burning. So I went in there and then he came out and said he don't see any fire, but he smelled something burning still. So I was saying that it smelled like it's my neighbor's house.
It was at that point she went to further investigate and discovered that the back room of the building was ablaze.
So I grabbed my kids and I just run out. By the time I run out, I save nothing because the fire was moving so rapid.
Peaches Hyman was also an occupant of the property and was in her room when the fire started.
I smell something. I see smell smoke and I start plug out everything. With time I bust a beer smoke. I don't know what. I not even know. I say I don't need that because it's smoke dark and I start cough. I run down here and go call help. By time I come back, everything burn up. I don't have nothing for my back, not even shoes for my foot. Everything burn up. My passport, my ID, my alien in the country. Nothing I don't have, nothing.
None of the occupants were able to save anything except for their lives. The fire department was alerted and 2 units from the Mandeville Fire Station responded.
The call came in approximately 2:05 p.m. We arrived at the scene at 2:15, approximately 2:15. When we arrived, the house was totally engulfed in flames. We immediately brought 2 medium jets into operation to attack the fire. And we also requested additional resources from the Mandeville Fire Station to assist us with the extinguishing of this fire.
District Officer at the Mandeville Fire Department, Fitzroy Donaldson, says the estimated loss is at $10 million. The cause of the blaze is still being investigated. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Issues recently highlighted by taxi operators in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth are to be addressed soon. Mayor of Black River, Derek Sangster, gave the commitment following a TVJ News report highlighting the operators' grouses. Yesterday, taxi operators voiced their concerns about not having proper shelter or adequate bathroom facilities at the number 2 transport center in the town. Mr. Sangster says the St. Elizabeth Municipal Corporation is aware of the issues.
To this end, we realize that yes, there is somewhat of a shortage in terms of the shelter. The shelters that are there at the moment are not adequate and sufficient to accommodate all the taxis that might be utilizing the transport center at the particular moment. So the Roads and Works Department has been looking at this issue.
The taxi drivers also complained about unclear directives regarding picking up and dropping off passengers. This, Mayor Sangster says, is also a part of his plan. However, he did not give a timeline for the implementation.
What would be needed are signages or signs that where taxis would park in a special way. Taxis going to Sidewalk, for instance, would park here. Those going to Junction or whatever would park there. So it is a proposal that we are looking at, and I've had discussions with the Roads and Works Department towards looking at putting in signages that the taxis can park in designated areas, that the passengers might more easily identify them and be able to take the taxis to their particular destination. So it's something that we are looking into as well.
In the meantime, the taxi operators have threatened to withdraw their service in the coming days. Motorists at the busy intersection of Waterloo Road and Hope Road in St. Andrew were yesterday evening caught in a shooting involving men traveling on motorcycles. The incident took place shortly after 6 o'clock while traffic was at a standstill. A motorist who witnessed the shooting told TVJ News that she was in the vicinity of Devon House heading up Hope Road when she saw 2 men traveling on a bike in the wrong direction. The woman, who declined to be interviewed on tape, said the men opened gunfire on a motorcyclist who fell. She says the motorcyclist ran and was chased and shot at several times by the 2 men. The woman said pedestrians had to flee as more shots were fired. It could not be ascertained if anyone was injured. Now, the intersection at Waterloo Road and Hope Road was later cordoned off as the police carried out their investigations. A security guard was found dead at an entertainment center in Brownstown, St. Anne last night. The deceased has been identified as 57-year-old Patrick Francis, also known as Bun, an employee of the supermarket in the town. It's understood that Francis was last seen on Sunday. However, it was not until yesterday that residents became suspicious and started searching for him. His body was later found on the bathroom floor by the owner of the entertainment center.
I received a call from my friend here. She explained to me that they could not find Boone, and for about 4 days she said his boss was looking for him. And I called the gentleman that owns the place, and when I called him, we met up and we went in the building. On entry, we had some, like, it smelled funny then. A foul stench was coming out of the building, and then we went further down, we went upstairs, and we didn't see him. So we went down and he checked the bathroom, and he saw blood and a foot, and he realized there was somebody there.
The police were alerted and his body was removed. We go on to news in sports. Head coach of Phoenix Rising FC in the United Soccer League, Rick Scans, says the addition of reggae boy Damian Lowe to the squad will add depth to their title push this season. Now, Lowe joined the Arizona-based club over the weekend and will be with them until the end of the season. Scans feels Lowe can be a player that gives them the needed steel in defense towards a busy end to the season.
He's a good guy. You know, our strength and conditioning coach worked with him in Seattle. Junior and Kevon both know him from the national team, so it was an opportunity. I spoke to him on the phone and asked him a few questions, kind of told him that, you know, things are pretty solid here, but we would give him an opportunity. And, you know, he's played at a really high level. He's been extremely successful in the USL, and we'll see where it goes.
However, after being out of professional football for 6 months, Shans says the first priority for Lowe is to get his match sharpness up. Lowe has been training with the club since Monday evening.
Very talkative, good leader on the field. I've already noticed it. He's directing traffic in front of him. Yeah, he's pretty dominant physically. You know, I think he's 6'3", about 180, extremely quick. Hopefully, you know, it works out. We'll see. He's got to get fit.
Rising FC are currently second in the Western Conference standings and are in pole position for qualifications to the playoffs. And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the primetime package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.